For centuries, coffee has been a beloved beverage, enjoyed by people all around the world. But what if I told you that your morning cup of coffee is under threat? As the global temperature rises, climate change is wreaking havoc on coffee production, with far-reaching consequences for farmers, communities, and coffee lovers alike. One country that is experiencing the impact of climate change on their coffee crops is Guatemala. Guatemala is known for producing Arabica coffee, which is highly regarded in the specialty coffee market. In terms of production volume, Guatemala is among the top coffee-producing countries in the world. However, its output is relatively modest compared to other major coffee producers like Brazil, Colombia, and Vietnam. Guatemala's focus on quality over quantity positions it as a prominent player in the specialty coffee market. Lorena's is the fourth generation of her family and third generation of women to run her family farm in Guatemala. Lorena, who has a background in biology, has used her research and knowledge to implement sustainable practices on her farm.
Our farm is in Quetzaltenango, which is a state from Guatemala that was one of the first states of coffee in the history of coffee in Guatemala.
She grew up playing on the farm and has seen firsthand how climate change has impacted her family's farm.
Right now we are experimenting increases of temperature different from the years when I began taking care of the farm. This is 20 years ago. Usually at night we didn't have hot temperatures. Now temperatures can raise until 30 centigrades, which is high for the place we are.
Her story is not unique. Across the world, coffee farmers are facing the harsh reality of climate change. Rising temperatures and excessive rainfall are affecting the delicate balance that coffee trees need to thrive.
I think probably some of the best research is coming out of CIAT, so the Tropical Agricultural Research Institute in Cali, Colombia, and a climate scientist there, Christian Boone. He's got some really like captivated, I guess, the popular science world about like coffee and climate change. And so his statistics and his climate modeling show that by 2050, about 50% of the like arable coffee growing regions will disappear and won't be as suitable for coffee in the future.
As a matter of fact, last year we had double the amount of rain of the average of 50 years. We had 10 meters of rainfall last year, which is, that reduced our crop tremendously.
Coffee is a sensitive crop, requiring specific conditions of temperature, rainfall, and altitude for optimal growth. If these conditions are not met, the coffee plant will struggle to flower and production volume will decline.
We're really looking for these like proxies for like how climate change might be impacting quality or how climate change might impact quality in the future. And so from that research, sort of the most compelling evidence is really surrounding altitude, which is, a very well-known sort of empirical evidence. Definitely like in the coffee industry, we always talk about like high altitude coffees being higher quality coffees. And so it was really affirming for us to like see that in the literature that as altitude increased, the coffee sensory quality definitely increased. And we can use that as a proxy for climate change, thinking about like warmer temperatures at lowland, cooler temperatures, and higher altitude grown coffee, and how that might contribute to sensory quality. So sort of breaking that down, then the lower land coffees could be sort of a proxy or indicators for how coffee quality might pan out in a warming climate in the future. So something like that.
It rained 12 months. It didn't stop. So the harvest this year was particularly bad.
Abnormal levels of rainfall and increased temperatures are the perfect recipe for the growth of fungus on coffee trees. Pests and fungus can decimate entire coffee farms, leading to reduced yields and income loss for farmers. Coffee pests and diseases, such as coffee leaf rust and coffee berry borer, are becoming more prevalent due to climate change.
Coffee needs a drying stress to flower, and we didn't have that last year. Nobody did in Guatemala, as a matter of fact. The coffee crop in the whole country is lower than the average of the last 10 years.
Guatemala is known for its diverse and rich ecosystems, ranging from coastal areas to highland mountains.
So in the Pacific Coast area, the problems with fungus is increasing. In contrast, the coffee, let's say in Antigua and Acatenango, lacks water. So the coffee growers have to implement artificial, systems of irrigation for the crops that increase the cost, of course, because they will probably receive less water in the year. The difference in the problems are that way. One region have a lot of water, another region doesn't have any water.
With coffee farmers experiencing a decrease in yield and higher operational costs to combat climate change, this leads to lower profitability for farmers. The price of coffee has exhibited significant fluctuations over time, impacting both consumers and coffee farmers.
Of coffee has been ranging between $1 and $1.50 a pound since 1976. And until 2021 and 20, where the price went to $2 for an extended period of time, to my knowledge, never seen before. But other than that, it was 1 or 2 years above $1.50 and then back again to $1 or even less. So in 45 years, the price of coffee has been the same dollar, but every time the dollar is worth less and less. So there's no adapting to that one. So high altitude coffees that can go into a specialty market, they have a future because they are out of the commodity.
Some farmers have started selling Robusta coffee, which can withstand tougher climates, leading them to have a higher yield than Arabica coffees.
But because we have the machinery to peel coffee, we're in the same area. And now we found lines of Robusta that have very consistent size of beans. We can actually use our machines to peel the Robusta, get rid of the skin before we dehydrate. So what I've been selling so far is a very clean Robusta. When I take my Arabica to the market, people kind of frown upon it. But when I take Robusta, they're really, wow, they are really asking for it, and there's a lot of interest. So that is pretty much, with the Arabica, I'm the tail of the lion, and with the Robusta, I'm the head of the mouse.
Arabica and Robusta are two primary species of coffee plants, each with distinct characteristics that contribute to the flavors and qualities of the coffee they produce. Arabica coffee plants are more delicate and require specific conditions to thrive. They are typically grown at higher altitudes, ranging from 600 to 2,000 meters above sea level. in regions with mild temperatures and ample rainfall. Robusta, on the other hand, are more resilient and can grow at lower altitudes. And they can tolerate warmer temperatures and are more resistant to diseases and pests. Along with growing Robusta, farmers have implemented agroforestry techniques, such as planting shade trees to provide a cooler microclimate for coffee plants. These shade trees include avocado, macadamia, and bananas. These trees are planted alongside coffee plants as to provide shade, enhance biodiversity, and prevent soil erosion.
When I first took care of the farm, I think it was very easy for me because I've been trained as biologist, and the way that I think and see the things is usually as a biologist. So for me, it's really easy to understand the phenology of the plant, how the different products will behave in the field. For example, the differences of having avocado or having macadamia or having coffee. So I think it's something that is very useful for me all the time, and it facilitates the way to learn probably faster about any crop I would like to establish.
One key aspect of coffee sustainability is the adoption of environmentally friendly farming methods. These practices include agroforestry and biodynamic agricultural farming. Ernesto has incorporated animals on his farm to help combat pests and control the growth of weeds.
So we include animals back into the fields. We disturb the soil as little as possible. We try to enrich the life in the soil. The Green Revolution was based on principles on sky, coffee, soil. Now we have shading trees. We have coffee plants underneath. We have weeds that, not all the weeds are bad. And we use the cows to keep them at bay, and the chickens also to keep the parasites of the cattle in check. Minimizing the amount of chemicals sprayed into the field has helped us a lot.
Additionally, farmers may use organic farming techniques that avoid the use of synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, relying instead on natural alternatives and promoting soil health. For ultimate growth, sustainable management of soil fertilization is essential.
On the ground, we apply vermicompost and compost to coffee trees. Every 3 years, we go around and make a major organic application to coffee, which helps us reduce the consumption of chemical fertilizers.
Kind of like thinking about, having to move to higher lands, for example, to kind of combat the effects of climate change and maybe try to maintain a similar level of quality isn't really feasible for coffee farmers. With multi-generational coffee farmers, they're really attached to that generational land and then don't necessarily have the capital to just like expand a coffee empire to higher and higher altitudes. It's just really not feasible. And then you can think about the environmental impact of how maybe those higher land suitable regions for coffee growing are also native forested regions, and we don't really want to contribute to deforestation by moving to higher altitudes. So it's just, really complex issue.
For many farmers, the land is sacred, as it has been passed down through many generations. As a result, maintaining the healthiness of the land using regenerative agricultural techniques to help the farm coexist with its natural environment. In an effort to adapt to the result of climate, water conservation is implemented to minimize water usage in coffee processing and to implement water treatment systems to reduce pollution from wastewater.
We generate our own electricity. We don't burn diesel. We don't buy energy. We grow. My grandfather made that plant. He went by it in the river. We're self-sufficient in energy.
Similarly, energy efficiency measures are implemented in coffee processing facilities to reduce carbon emissions and minimize the environmental footprint. The impacts of climate change on coffee production go beyond the farm level. Coffee is a critical source of livelihood for millions of people. Collaboration and partnerships among various stakeholders in the coffee industry, including farmers, exporters, roasters, and consumers, are essential for implementing and promoting sustainability practices.
We've had the chance to work with producers in Eastern Africa as well as Latin America, and it's real. You can look at a branch of coffee off of a coffee tree, and you can see 3 stages happening on one branch. Whereas years ago, producers, the way coffee is grown, each process of coffee, be it flowering or when the cherry comes out or whatever process, there's a time period for it. But now, producers are always saying that they're seeing, one coffee tree has so much going on it, as if the tree doesn't know what time of year it is. So rest assured, if that's happening, you're not going to get the yield that you're used to getting.
Thankfully, there are efforts being made to address the challenges faced by coffee farmers due to climate change. Organizations and experts are working with coffee farmers to promote climate-smart coffee farming practices to make coffee farming more resilient to climate change. These practices not only help farmers adapt to climate change, but also contribute to mitigating climate change by reducing carbon emissions. The challenges posed by climate change to coffee production are real and urgent. But with sustainable and climate-smart farming practices and support from consumers, businesses, and organizations, we can work together to protect the future of coffee and the livelihoods of coffee farmers. With continued efforts, farmers, scientists, and importers alike are working together and taking action against climate change. The future of coffee remains a mystery, but within this lies hope, as we can protect the world's beloved beverage and the communities that rely on it. Cheers to a better future for coffee and our planet.